So in 2011, you're brought to McLean, Virginia, William McRaven, to meet with the CIA. Tell me about that moment where they're going to kind of unearth to you the plan to go after bin Laden and some of your reservations.
This was not my first rodeo, so to speak. We had done many bin Laden raids. Each and every one of those was an example of confirmation bias. Tall guy, white robes, therefore must be bin Laden, right? Invariably, we would bomb that tall guy in white robes. And invariably, it was never bin Laden. It was, a civilian surrounded. What made him look tall from the drone overhead was the fact that the people around him were short, women and children. So we killed scores of innocent men, women, and children based on that confirmation bias, seeing what you want to see. So we show up at CIA headquarters. I know it's another bin Laden hunt. I'm not remotely convinced that this one will be any different than the others. We get read into the mission. First thing I do is walk up to the young woman who was at that point leading the team of analysts that found him. These are the true unsung heroes of the mission. They are just incredibly tenacious people that would not stop the hunt for this guy. And they put the pieces of the puzzle together. I went up to her though and said, hey, what have you done to disconfirm that this is bin Laden? And I thought I would stump her and she would say, well, what do you mean disconfirm? But, lo and behold, she unveils a laundry list of things that she and her team had done to try and disconfirm, to talk themselves out of this. That was the first point where I thought, okay, they're onto something. Next, though, was, I was told, well, you guys are going to go in these super secret helicopters. I'm like, what super secret helicopters? I've never heard of these super secret helicopters. And I've been around for a pretty long time, almost 25 years at that point. I said, whose idea was that to use these super secret helicopters that I know nothing about, that have never been tried, never been tested? Well, they said, well, it's Admiral McRaven's. And I went, oh, okay, well, I'll go talk to Bill then. And I went up to him and I said, hey, with all due respect, it's just me, Bill McRaven, and my boss, the commanding officer, Pete Van Hooser, the three of us. And I said, with all due respect, I would not use these helicopters. In fact, what we should do is do a parallel plan. And that is, as we get 2 weeks to train, let's use our regular helicopters, see if they can't beat the radar. They probably can. And if not, then, and we'll accept this high risk platform and go forth with that. And, he screamed at me. I then wanted me fired for being so disrespectful as to question his eminence, his authority. And there's a long story behind that. Bill was kicked out of our command in 1983. For some not kind things.
Do you think, Dave, did that color his judgment, do you feel?
Absolutely did. He spent the next 15 to 20 years. I know this. I've talked to some of these young officers that he tried to talk out of coming to Dev Group, SEAL Team 6, if you wish. So those are the guys I know about. There are many that he probably was successful with. And yeah, he referred to us as, as gangsters and, mafia members and stuff like that. He had his little feelings hurt, and it's understandable. A lot of guys don't make it through the Dev Group training. 50% of the SEALs that show up don't make it through. Many of them go back with hard feelings, which is unfortunate. We had the Captain Phillips rescue, very successful rescue. If you've seen the Captain Phillips movie, it's not even remotely true. That solution to that hostage problem was the snipers alone watching that boat, recognizing that the pirates in that lifeboat were frantic at one point, and the sniper team leader saying, we need to solve this problem now, and we need to be able to get these guys to show their faces in that window all at once. They would never do that previously, and they came up with a ruse. And lo and behold, one guy pops his head up and the sniper team leader is talking to him on a radio via an interpreter saying, man, this is just us out. It's just me. It's the interpreter. Of course, the snipers were hidden. It's me and the interpreter. I need to talk to you because it looks like some things are going on and this is not good, right? So one guy shows his head, convinces the next guy to show his head, then the third guy, and that quick the problem is over. Well, Bill was mad. He wasn't just mad. He wanted to punish these guys. He didn't get to make the call.
God, that's the height of ego.
Yeah, right before the bin Laden raid, there's an hostage rescue in the Indian Ocean. It's a sailboat with 4 Americans on, 41 feet long, 19 Somali pirates on this. It's not pretty. This is going to get ugly. But before the team left, the squadron left, kind of did, the same way they did with Captain Phillips. They're going to go out, jump in, and try and tail the ship and have the snipers watch. He said, you manipulated me on the Captain Phillips raid rescue, and it's not going to happen again. Took in direct control of that mission from 8,000 miles away in North Carolina, would not let the assault squadron do anything. And in the end, he wanted to have a show of force. So he brought, as that sailboat came within sight of the Somali coastline, he brought an American warship right up alongside of it. And at that point, the Somali pirates gunned down those 4 hostages. As the snipers looked on, under direct orders not to fire under any circumstances. Of course, we're monitoring this from our headquarters in Virginia. And when I met that team, when they came back, the sniper team leader walked off the airplane, walked right up to me and said, Coop, should I have disobeyed orders? This was eating at him. So this is the height of ego, of ineptitude, of incompetence, of all of those things. But it's also a result of a system that rewards that kind of behavior. And there's learning that goes on. You learn to do and adopt the behaviors that the system rewards. So it's not just Bill. There's many other people out there that do these things. But yeah, it's a sad, long, sad story. But what we did was, he would not back off on the helicopters. And oh, by the way, he never apologized for making us use those things. He never apologized for those hostages getting killed either. What can we control at that point? Well, we can see how the helicopters fly. And as soon as we got in those helicopters, we noticed that they were unstable when they came to a hover. It was this kind of thing. So we're like, okay, there's where the instability lies. What can we do to kind of account for that risk? And that was make the helicopter pilots do these controlled crash landings on just about every one of the training scenarios that we did. And that's what they did. And lo and behold, on the night that the raid took place, one of the helicopters did indeed lose power and go down. But because that pilot had been doing controlled crash landings for the last 2 weeks, it was nothing for him. He put it down. These are the best pilots in the world as it is. He put it down safely, and it didn't slow the guys down one bit. So we accounted for that risk, even though we were forced to accept that risk. And disobeying would have meant just quitting, to walk away and say, okay, I'm done here and you won't listen to me. So our only option was, as I said to Bill when he screamed at me, I said, hey, and I rubbed it in his face. I said, as the only guy on your staff with combat experience, I'd be remiss not to tell you what I thought. And then I turned around and walked away. And that's when he told my boss that he needs to go, and my boss said, no.